Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Yes, good morning. This is Jim from Rochester. How are you guys? I just happened to see a few things on YouTube that I'm finding out is not unlike what I had already mentioned. I mentioned that you never mentioned making a Super Bowl one, and you finally did. Why? Because you heard it from me and my family. You're winning nothing with Kevin Stefanski as coach. Understand that. Nothing. Goodbye.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Tim, I guess we're just going to have to agree to disagree with Jim in Rochester because I don't think he's going anywhere for a while.
I mean, we talked about at the top of, our segment was he just signed a contract extension. He's sticking around for the long haul. And when you look at Kevin Stefanski, yeah, there are some criticism of him. Sometimes he maybe gets a little too cute with his play selection, but I think as far as the playoffs, I can't really criticize him that much because you look at 2020, you're asking Baker Mayfield to keep up with Patrick Mahomes against the Steve Spagnuolo defense in Arrowhead. I know that was a limited crowd because of COVID restrictions, but you're still going up against the Steve Spagnuolo defense. And as we've seen throughout the last handful of years, he turns it up as far as a play caller in the playoffs. And then 2023 with Joe Flacco, obviously going up against what CJ Stroud did. I mean, Stroud was magnificent in that game. Flacco had, it was going to be very difficult for Flacco to match up with him. And then he threw 2 pick sixes in consecutive possessions that essentially put the game out of reach. So we haven't really seen Kevin Stefanski in the playoffs with elite quarterback play. We also haven't seen him coach in a home playoff game. Remember that the Browns haven't had a home playoff game since the 90s. So we're talking, 3 full decades without a home playoff game. So I think it's hard to judge Stefanski on playoff resume again when he hasn't had that elite quarterback to work with in the playoffs. And as we know in playoff football, if you have that elite quarterback, it gives you a much better chance of success.
The other thing he was referring to is that you don't hear the Browns talk about Super Bowl. That's not uncommon. They don't talk about Super Bowl because you have to get to the playoffs, and then you focus on the playoffs before you talk about winning the Super Bowl. Nobody comes in and repeatedly talks about the Super Bowl. It's counterproductive, but be that as it may.